Get sales lessons from experts and entrepreneurs
Go out there and be the spokesperson and the representative for the brand.
on how you can bring your A game in selling.
Making sales requires putting yourself out there and being vulnerable.
To start and scale your business.
We need to negotiate for what we deserve.
This is Ace the Sales Podcast, and here's your host, Roshni Barronia.
Hey there, so happy to have you joining me for today's episode where I'm talking to Bhargavi Swami, CEO of Excel Corporation, which is an HR and brand consulting firm. She's also a podcaster hosting the show People Who Matter. But before I start my conversation with her, a quick reminder to follow Is the Sales Podcast on your podcast listening app, which could be Spotify, Apple iTunes, Ghana, Google Podcast, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. Because when you do that, it helps us take this podcast and these valuable conversations to many more entrepreneurs just like yourself. So just hit the follow button on your podcast listening app. And now let's bring Bhargavi onto the mic. Okay, so here we are. Hi, Bhargavi. I'm so delighted to have you on Ace the Sales podcast. And instead of reading out the usual introduction of yours, which is you being an HR expert, a podcaster, author, I want to touch upon the other side of you, where you come from doing a stint in radio, you've studied mass communication, you come from a family of musicians. So talk us a little bit about the transition, right, from radio, from creative work, to into HR consulting, being the CEO of Excel Corporation. How did that happen?
Well, first of all, thank you, Roshni. Thank you so much. Like we discussed, we wanted this to happen for some time, and I'm so glad it's happening now. So likewise, I love to catch some of the episodes of your podcast as well. And it's extremely inspiring. And I think you're doing a fab job in getting some motivational stories out there. So, all right, back to my background of being somebody from a non-human resources background who jumped into this amazing space of managing human talent. Well, I did start out by being a communications major. So I'm a gold medalist from Symbiosis for mass communication. And I was thinking that my career is going to span out like every other youngster right out from college, thinking that what I've studied is exactly what I'm going to do. And of course, life had other plans and the industry is moving in a pace which is unbeatable and unimaginable. And that's what happened with me. My father, I come from a family of engineers who are passionate about music. Let me put it that way. So everybody in my family sings or they play an instrument or something like that. So they're passionate about music. However, they're all a family of engineers. So extremely science-heavy family is what I come from. I used to love sciences till I realized that maybe I don't want to make a career out of it. And I always had a creative bent of mind, which is why I went into humanities, psychology, economics, history, languages. I have a flair for languages as well. So I speak at least 5 to 6 languages. So these things helped me, in the process of understanding that communication is probably the space I should be in. Little did I know that what I've studied as mass communication would translate into a communication for masses, which is talent that I'm trying to hire, for companies. And my father started his retirement project, which was Excel Corporation. So he was someone who traveled a lot. So we didn't see him too much while we were growing up. He was into sales and marketing as well for many companies. And when he constantly got posted, to different cities, we couldn't always move with him. So he realized that before we grow up and, leave the nest and fly out, he wanted to put the roots down by starting an organization where he felt he could help the human talent, the human capital, which he had always seen was something that was lacking either in the skill set or in the confidence or in terms of translating, your skill sets on a resume into an interview and then succeeding in it. So that's when he started Excel Corporation, which originally started out as a human resources recruitment staffing firm. And I joined the business. So our company is around 13 to 14 years old. And I was, of course, when it's a family business, you're always part of it, whether you like it or not. So in fact, the first email that was ever sent out for Excel was, from me. And I, during my project days in mass communication, I designed the logo of the company. And, I got the letterhead ready and things like that. So you're always involved, whether you like it or not. So, I've always been a part of this organization, but officially I joined it around 11 to 12 years back. And since the day I joined, I realized that there's a lot of work that I can add on, from the new generation's lens, from a new perspective that can be added on when you're looking at managing and handling human capital. And that's what I brought to the business. I started purely to manage the branding of the business, to give it a perception in the wide world of human capital, so that Excel Corporation could stand out. And before I knew it, I was completely sucked into the business. I was managing at least 5 to 6 verticals. And then, I slowly grow the ranks. And today I'm the CEO of the organization as well. So that prompted me to study human resources as well, like I was telling you, so that I can advise my clients right from a place of knowledge. And that's when I had to do another master's. But yes, that's basically the story of how someone like me from a humanities background got into Excel Corporation, which is into human capital.
Wow, that's quite a journey. And I think the underlying fact that enabled you to do that is to just go with the flow. I mean, in spite of working in mass communication, having a radio background, you were open to doing the work of sales and marketing, doing the logos, and working in that organization, which is talking about completely different topic. But great. We will get to more of your entrepreneurial journey in the Excel Corporation. But before that, let me just touch upon the other side of Bhargavi, so which we call the BTS on ATS, which is behind the scenes on Ace the Sales podcast, where we will do just fun questions to know the parts which not many people know. Okay?
All right. Okay.
So, Bhargavi, tell us one silly habit that you have which drives people around you crazy.
Oh, there are a lot of silly habits. Ask people around me, they're going to be like, this one, nuts. That's what probably is the definition for me, for most of the people who know. But I think I have a very active imagination in general. So if you're speaking something, right, I can visually imagine it. Maybe it's the mass comm side. Maybe I was always like this. I don't know. I'm a very visual person, apart from just being, an audio person as well, because I run a podcast. But if you tell me something, you narrate something, whether it's about the mechanics of a hydraulics machine or whether it's about this amazing date that you went on with your boyfriend, I can imagine, like, it's a visual play going on, screenplay is going on in my head. So I think that's a habit, people find unique and annoying at the same time.
Okay. Tell us one thing that we won't find or know from your profile on social media or your website.
I'm trying to be, I wouldn't say I'm an open book. No, I don't want everybody to know everything. Where's the mystery in that? But I would say I am fiercely loyal. For the people who have earned my trust and earned my loyalty, I'm fiercely loyal for them. So that's something I don't advertise online, but whoever is within, my acquaintance or my friend's circle, I've definitely seen that they've experienced it. So yeah, they probably know the true, real me. Yes.
Okay. When I say a successful woman business owner, who comes to your mind?
Well, there are several examples for it, both internationally as in India. I would say I don't want to call it a business woman anymore or a female entrepreneur. I'm sure you will agree as well, because if you want an equal seat in that table, right, you need to go with the merit of just being an entrepreneur. It doesn't matter whether man, woman, you don't identify with a gender, you identify with a gender. I think none of that matters anymore, because now there are so many more examples, right, of people who've come forth and really established themselves in the space. So I think some of the best examples in the world are, of course, for us all to see, whether it's an Indra Nui or Falguni Nair, or whether it's Sudha Murthy. She's done a very different entrepreneurial journey in her own way. The social entrepreneurship movement kind of took off with her. There are so many amazing women out there in different countries, whether it's, especially in, I would say, a lot of women from places which you don't even experience. Like today I was reading a wonderful story about the Lijjat Papad ladies, the first 7 ladies of Lijjat Papad in 1959 who started, the journey. I'm sorry, I don't remember all their names, but what a journey, right? 1959, rural India. I mean, getting mentored by somebody who's also a rural local businessman. And then these ladies created what we call a mammoth of a company. And today I was just reading it's 1,600 crore revenue. I mean, those are crazy numbers. And to sustain a business which is over 60 plus years in Indian market, with the volatile Indian market, the political diaspora that we've had, the ups and downs of just inflation, recession, everything else. I mean, I run a business. I exactly know what it means, having gone through multiple recessions, multiple inflation in the last 13, 14 years. So, I mean, kudos to such people. So I wouldn't say, the entrepreneur that inspires me, not just the big name that we read in the magazines, but a lot of smaller stories which have not even come to the forefront. Like I met a cottage industry person very recently who has been working on the ikat work that they do, Madhubani paintings. So many women are out there who are striving to make a niche for themselves, be financially independent. That's such an important aspect, whether it's urban, rural India. Financial freedom has sunk in deep into so many people's hearts and minds that I think all these stories are inspiring for me. So I learn every day, and I do not for 1 second take this comfortable seat saying, oh my God, I've achieved everything, and let's rest on our laurels. No way.
No, not at all. In fact, this podcast and the way we bring out women entrepreneurs on this podcast as well is a way of us putting the spotlight on all the people who are doing great work. I mean, it's not only the people who made it to the headlines or the cover pages, but it's also people like you and me who are trying to make a difference every day in a very small way, or if we may say so. But yeah, I think impact is making its way with every little conversation, if with every person trying to do their best. So awesome. Great. So let's deep dive into our conversation where we can learn from you some tips about business management, growing your business, and doing selling in your business. So, Bhargavi, you said that you are a second generation entrepreneur, and this was a business that your father started and you joined it business. So I'm sure you have had loads of business lessons being handed down to you from him. So can you share a couple of those business lessons that you've inherited or learned from your father?
Yes, absolutely. It's so timely that you asked me this. It was just Teachers' Day a couple of days back, and I'd put out a post recognizing my father as my business guru, something that my ego doesn't allow me to do very often, but I did. But I did. And I did list out a few things there as life lessons, as business lessons that I've learned from him. So I think it's a very interesting journey for any person to work with a family member. And I think a lot of businesses that run on successful family relations, have really taught us a lot when it comes to this. I think number one rule, which I would say both of us established for each other, especially now, this is for the audiences of yours who are into family businesses, who work with their own, relations and things like that. Have a very clear conversation about how much of this is personal and how much of this is business. You need to know when to switch off. The minute the job is done, the work is done, and you walk out of the office or you log out of your laptop, whatever it is, you need to know those boundaries of personal and professional. Because trust me, as you navigate life and business in the years to come, it's always a challenge if you can't keep the two aside. So that is, I think, lesson number one. The second is we started out as a small entrepreneurship company. So my dad comes from this old school of businessmen who will try to be bootstrapped till as much as they can be, and who will not who love zero debt. So ours is a zero debt company, and that's the way we want to keep it. And going into an investment and raising a fund's equity, that's a different conversation. But I think that's something I learned from him, that you have to be very careful about the fund that you have. The running capital for the day is very, very important. So any new innovation, anything that you want to try out, everything has to be done with the mindset of frugal innovation. That's literally the cornerstone of Excel Corporation, is frugal innovation. We are not the big spenders on many trends, technology, and other things. We definitely try it out, and we try our own way of getting a version which works for us without really emptying out our pockets. And I think that's very important for every small business, which I understand is your main target audience. To be frugal, to not really jump into the bandwagon when you see so many successful stories online that they raised this much and they spent that much. Trust me, I mean, in one of my podcasts, I was interviewing a very successful serial entrepreneur, and he mentioned this, and such a valid point. So this person is Mr. Mohit, who is the former founder of moneycontrol.in. And he said, the minute you raise funds, it's like you're a moving target. So that stuck with me. He's like, the minute you bring investors into the picture, which is great for the business, which you need to have in expansion, everything, but please remember you've set a target on your back. So every time you are answerable to them. So make sure your business is ready for that before you go into this whole, investment space or fundraising space. And that's exactly what my dad says as well. So I think that's a great and important lesson. And apart from that, I think just an honest day's sincere work is never old fashioned. Hard work can never be out of fashion. No matter what happens in the world, what technology comes in, what platforms we use, what Web 3.0, 2.0, whatever we're using, hard work was never going to go out of fashion. Smart work, yes, you must work smartly, but never ever not put in the hours that you need to put in order to achieve what you need to. So yeah, these are some of the life changing lessons I learned. I would like to add, I taught him quite a few things too.
Great. So like you said, that you were on the building the business on the cornerstone of frugal innovation. So it is very little that you were spending on the very fancy stuff, but it was very hardcore, putting yourself out there, going out there, meeting your clients, and doing the old school things of just reaching out. So this is the traditional way of selling, right? So when you got into the shoes of the CEO, what were the first few things that you incorporated? How did you build up your sales function and sales team? Was it you alone doing it? You had, or you got to creating the entire sales function with the sales team? How was it like? What was the first step? Hey there, hope you've been loving the episode so far. Just wanted to take a moment to invite you to Ace the Sales Club, which is a tribe of women small business owners who dream, dare, and do amazing stuff. If that's you, which I'm sure you are, just sign up for it from the link given in show notes, as every month we share with you tools and resources that can save you time, save you money, or help you make more money as a solopreneur. So sign up for the club from the link given in show notes. And now back to the episode.
Sure. I'll just like to add here that I think the innovation in the frugal innovation that we set out, it started happening at least 8 to 10 years back. Ever since I joined the organization, I've always tried to incorporate new things, whether it's new ways of services that we can provide, new ways of being visible in the market. And I do agree that there's a lot of traditional sales call that can, again, never go out of fashion, never can go out of style. But I think we started doing innovations pretty early, even before I took over as a CEO. Maybe that was a reason why I was given this mantle as well, saying, go ahead, now you're ready, take on the role of the CEO, because of the fact that certain innovations that we worked on really worked for us. So I'll tell you a quick story, which also ties in my...
Yeah, you can share those innovations also.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think one of them is very open and blatant for everybody to see, which I'm happily plugging in here in my conversation, is my podcast itself. Yeah, talking about innovation. So what happened is, in 2018, which is nearly 4 to 5 years back, we were going through, the regular slump any established business will go through. You want to move forward, but you don't know which direction you want to choose. You want to continue with the existing business and the status quo because that's great capital coming into your company and you don't want to disturb that. So, and I was a very restless soul all the time. So, I constantly need things to stimulate me in business because I would say I don't like stagnation, and I constantly strive to learn and do more and be as with the times as I can be. So I was on a holiday in US, and I was listening to podcasts, and I was just listening to multiple podcasts there. I'm saying USA because at that point of time, India didn't have so many podcasts. This is 2018, okay? And there it was a mature market. So I heard all this and I came back, and constantly you're inspired when you travel, right? It's a great cultural exchange, diversity. You get to see what's going on outside and you want to bring that into your country. So that's exactly what happened. I decided to start approaching our clients in a non forceful way, non aggressive way. It was a passive approach to them. At the same time, it makes them feel good. It makes my brand have a voice and subtly tells people what I do without shouting down, oh my God, we're a HR recruitment company. Please come to us. We will, help you with your placements. Instead of doing that, I decided to make something which will outlast me as well. I hope that I'm, creating something which is an IP, which is a legacy, and which will outlast me, hopefully. So that's how People Who Matter, the podcast show, was born. And at that point of time, again, India didn't have so many tools. We didn't have Spotify, we didn't have Anchor, we didn't have Ghana, we didn't have so much here. And I had to place my podcast on a US-based server. So what happened is automatically the podcast got distributed in two markets. One is the mature North American markets, which is your Canada, North America, Australia, Europe. And it also, of course, deliberately, I was pushing it in the Indian diaspora, in the Asian market. So in India, Singapore, Dubai, that's also where my business is spread. So the podcast started getting pushed in these circles as well. And we were talking about everything, right from talking subtly about, my journey with Excel, what I was doing, what is our company doing, how we positioned for the future, etc. We also invited the best in the business as well as up and coming entrepreneurs. So we wanted to provide a platform to up and coming entrepreneurs, but we knew very well that it can't happen without having some big names as well on the podcast, because that's what will give our podcast that kind of visibility which any new product, any new service would need. So that's how we started. And since ours was a services company, which is Excel Corporation, which is a human resources talent consulting firm, we wanted something which is tangible, where people can connect with us as our brand without actually having to take our services all the time. And that's how People Who Matter was born. So today, People Who Matter, Excel Corporation, Bhargavi Swami, these three things are synonymous with each other. So if people say my name, they know my company, they know my podcast. If they say the podcast, they know my company and me. So I think I was trying to create a brand for the company, which kind of catapulted to me having a brand image of myself as an individual, which today is very important for every leader. And of course, the podcast itself. We interviewed some of the best people in the market, right from the head of and the MD India of Facebook down till a founder of ID Fast Foods, the head HR of Big Basket. We had this, in fact, the latest season 4 of the podcast started with the VP brand and marketing of Misho, which is very much in the headlines these days because of viral content. Lucky Seni was our opening guest. We ended with Shikha Gupta, who was the ex-head of Swiggy, and today she's heading a company called Slice. So we had some interesting people, but we also peppered it with a lot of startup entrepreneurs from design tech, fintech, fashion tech, edutech, food tech. So, I mean, I was learning with every episode as well. And I started making more inroads into the network I wanted to build. So today, if I can say these names very confidently and send them a WhatsApp text or do business with them, is simply because I thought out of the box. And to start a podcast in India didn't take me much money. And I just had to have, at that point in time, I think I didn't even have a professional mic. So I was pretty much plugged into my existing laptop with my headphones on, and I had an enclosure in the space that I was working in where it allowed me to record podcasts in the evening. So I would do it after everybody goes home, so it's silent, the floor is silent, and I could find this space. So you have to do a lot of hustle, of course. Nothing comes easy when you're trying to do frugal innovation. You have to hustle a lot, but it's totally worth it when you see the end result. So through organic marketing, Roshni, we didn't spend a pie on season 1, 2, 3. We reached an audience of over 70,000 listeners, and we had over, I think, around that time it was around 100K downloads. Today, after 4 seasons of People Who Matter podcast, with the season 3 getting picked up by Audible as an Audible exclusive, today I have over 2 million downloads across 4 seasons, and we have over 100K subscribers. So this, now I'm able to push my products to the subscribers as well. So I happen to author a book as well, and my human resources services that we do, which we also branched out into different things, which I will also tell you about. So these things now I'm able to push to a very active community, an active audience list, which is watching me, which is reading what I write, and they reach out to me that way. So I think that's a great privilege.
Thanks so much, actually, for sharing and putting the spotlight on how to strategically use a podcast for prospecting and connecting with your potential clients. Because actually, that is one of the things, being a podcast lover myself, I emphasize a lot on people who are looking to have that frugal innovation, if I may repeat your word, that yes, it is a way of actually sharing your voice, sharing your thoughts and expertise, but also connecting with your potential clients, making your services known loud and clear. It's your media billboard. So I also wanted to ask you, Bhargavi, that when you started to reach out to your potential clients, or you started doing prospecting, or you started talking to people as to, hey, we are an HR recruitment and staffing company, which is a very, very competitive and cluttered space. I mean, there are so many recruitment agencies and staffing companies out there. So, how did you communicate your USP, your differentiator to your potential clients?
Sure. So I think from the beginning, we always positioned ourselves in markets which didn't have too much competition. So having said that, let me give you the oxymoron. So we started Excel Corporation in the tech city Bangalore. by positioning ourselves as a non-tech HR talent firm. So what we did was we didn't run behind the bulk hirings that everybody else was running at that point of time. There was the big guns were Infosys, Wipro, Capgemini, Cisco. They still are the heavyweights, of course. But today, if there's so much more, so many more interesting opportunities and companies that have come. So when we started aiming at manufacturing, engineering, heavy chemicals, and heavy engineering products, hydraulics. We were aiming at that as our clients, and so what we did was we kind of cut down the entire market space there. Secondly, we provided high quality, highly educated, highly trained staff to provide this kind of service. I think in the beginning of this conversation, aside, I was telling you we're an all woman HR organization. Again, my dad's brainchild. He's a bigger feminist than I am. He has two daughters. So he saw, women dropping out in different life cycle changes that happen to them, whether it's marriage, relocation, children, elderly care. Everything usually falls on the shoulders of the woman, majority of the times. And because of that, a lot of women leave the job force, and highly qualified women, right? You and I both know women like that, I'm sure. So when that happens, you lose confidence in yourself as an individual, especially if you've been a working person and work has become a part of your identity. And a lot of people in India associate themselves as, hi, my name is so and so, I'm the senior vice president in so and so company. It's not, hi, I'm so and so, I'm a kind, smart, intellectual person who enjoys movies and reading. That's not how you describe yourself. So when identity loss happens, it shakes up the core of a person, and it also affects your mental health, which then translates into a bad family situation, and so on and so forth. So since my dad had seen a lot of that in his 35 years of career, he decided he'll do a startup, which is a social. In his eyes, this is a socialpreneurship organization. So what we do is we have a strong team of women recruiters, but they don't have an MBA HR. They actually are ex-engineers, ex-bankers, ex-teachers, ex-product designers, ex-fashion designers, ex-media personalities, ex-singers. So these are the guys who are actually recruiting for our media, tech, non-tech clients. So you're getting somebody from your industry who understands your industry problems and then recruiting for you. So that was one of our biggest USPs, which we got. Secondly, in our organization, we are able to, I think always 10% of our hires come from backward areas in India. So that we are able to give them not just computer skills, the basic computer skills, but also English training. So I'm talking about, we are headquartered in Bangalore. So we have a lot of people who joined us from, say, rural Karnataka, rural Andhra Pradesh, rural Tamil Nadu, who we were able to take on board and not only teach them computer skills, but also train them in English. And today I'm so proud that some of them are heading our international clients as the face of Excel Corporation. So they are, front facing Singapore, they're front facing Dubai clients. And these are like great stories. This is like daily motivation for you to get up and go to work as well. So I think when that happens, it kind of makes you very focused on what you want to get, out of this whole situation of starting an organization and then going forth. So that was one USP of ours. The second I would say is we've always positioned ourselves as a boutique human resources consulting company. And we've been a little bit ahead of our times because we solve problems which most people don't see. So, for example, we first identified the non-tech market, which was very disorganized, which needed an organized, process-oriented recruitment system, which we put in place for many companies. Then we identified the startup market, which at that point of time, let me tell you, one of our first few clients has been early days Flipkart, early days Redbus, early days Urban Ladder, which then turned into Urban Company. So these have been our first few Byju's, early days Byju's. So these have been our first few clients that we have serviced. So when we service clients like that, we see their pain points very clearly. So we started another service, which is very popular today. It's called virtual HR. So what we do is we just take off the entire burden of HR on a startup, which doesn't have the budgets for an internal HR manager. And we handle the entire process for them with a point of contact from our end. And with probably a cost which is half the cost they will pay on a per annum basis to an internal HR person. So these are problems we see and we solve. And thirdly, after so many years of experience of working, we've realized that people come to us with an impossible situation. So we are the guys to go to, or girls to go to rather, when you need to place a position which you've not been able to place. And we place it very successfully and we place it in the shortest turnaround time. Simply because our in-industry expertise within the recruiters that we have and the database funnels we've been able to create in the last 13 to 14 years. So this, I would say, is our USPs in a very cluttered market.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Thinking out of the box again to actually nail down what makes you different is something that I think every business owner should think about in the first place. Instead of before just putting out their program, products, or services into the market, they should think about what is the differentiator, why it is so special, and why will people buy, and how will I communicate it to them. So thanks for sharing all those three things, because it's very important for us to nail out that differentiator. So Bhargavi, thanks for the lovely conversation. Just a last question that we always ask our guest on the show is that what's your message to all the women entrepreneurs out there as to how they can fall in love with selling? Because this podcast is curated especially for women small business owners. So if you can give your advice, your tips as to how they can get better at selling.
Okay, all right, absolutely. So I would say, as women, we are already blessed with people skills. So that's something most women don't have to learn. Just when you manage a family, a household, just your community or your colony, your whatever it is, how you're able to manage those relations, how you're able to navigate with friends and family after marriage, all these skills really help in business as well, especially in selling. So I would say, number one, be aware of how special you are and how gifted you already are without you actually having to push too much, to learn that. Secondly, I would say the world today is amazing, and a lot of doors open today when you are a woman entrepreneur. I don't like to say women entrepreneur too often. I like to say entrepreneur. But I would say, with so many government policies, so many investors looking into investing in women led businesses, so many companies trying to collaborate with women led businesses, and just the fact that, a woman in a room really changes the dynamics of a room. I truly believe that. A very stoic and a very extremely bored or a serious space automatically lights up in the right way, in a very positive way. And problems start getting solutions. You feel inspired. You feel like you want to collaborate further when a woman is in the room as well. The dynamics of any room will change. You can notice it at home, you can notice it outside. So I feel women are already very special, so they just have to make sure they use these very special skills. And finally, I would say women have to develop confidence. A lot of women, the main reason why they don't shine, or they refuse to shine, or they push someone else to gain the limelight, is literally because they lack confidence. You need to believe in yourself. You need to believe in the product you're making. You need to believe in whatever role you have in the company. And I think you really need to go out there and put yourself out there with a lot of confidence and conviction. Whether it's asking for a raise of salary in your own company, or whether it is asking an investor for money, or whether it is asking for equity share in a company, or anything and everything at all, right? You need to raise your voice for you to get what you want. Nobody is going to come and give it to you in your lap. Nobody has telepathic skills. So you really need to articulate what exactly you want with confidence, with conviction, with the arguments ready. When you go very well prepared and researched, and that's when you make a mark in the business world or in life in general. So I would say this is my 3-point advice for women out there.
Wow, awesome. Put yourself out there and put yourself out there with confidence. So important. Thank you so much for this lovely conversation, Bhargavi. Wishing you all the best, and wishing you that we have more and more role models like yourself, because you are doing such great work, not only at Excel Corporation, but also as a leader who is putting herself out there every day through her podcast, through her work. So kudos to you. Thank you so much for being here. And that's a wrap. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you found any value in today's episode, then remember to recommend Ace the Sales podcast to at least one of your business buddies. You never know what insight they will get that can help them in their business. So do some good karma today. Finally, a loud shout out and thank you to the production team of Done For You podcast, who helped me in bringing this show to you. If you too are looking to start your podcast for the business, get in touch with DFIP from the link given in show notes. Join me in the next episode for yet another conversation that can help you fall in love with selling. Till then, take very good care of yourself. This is your host, Roshni Baronia, signing off.